Hey lovely sexy hobby people, welcome to today's video, which is issue 9, Dungeons and Dragons Adventurer. We get another tin in this. Right. Oh, hello. And another character. Right, let's crack this open. So, we've got 2 character sheets for this character, both one level 1 and one level 2. Ecrin triple toll, so that's cool. Right, we'll have a look at those in a little bit. Along with the dice, let's have a look at our magazine. So, movement, part 1. Here we go. A party's ability to travel over long distances depends on the speed they travel and the types of environment. Despite the name of the game, not every adventure in Dungeons & Dragons takes place in an underground vault filled with damp corridors. This is true. Over the course of an adventure, a party can travel across wide areas on trips that might take days. Sometimes the destination is more important than the journey. If the purpose of travel is to get the characters to where the real adventure happens, the DM might gloss over the trek. Think of the way movies use montages to convey long and arduous journeys in a matter of seconds. Travel can be summarised without calculating the exact distances or times, with the DM telling the players you travel through the forest and find the old ruin late in the evening of the 3rd day. Sometimes the journey deserves as much time and attention as the destination. Parties can encounter any number of things as they cross meadows, forests, deserts, mountain ranges and even oceans. In the great outdoors, creatures roam in search of prey. Tribes of barbarians wage war in dense, dark woods contain real threats, turning longer excursions into exciting adventures in their own right. Marching order. A trip might see characters stumble across ruins from ancient temples to razed cities. Settlements, towns, villages, cities or strongholds or weird magical locales, as well as perils from monstrous predators to merciless raiders. When the group encounters something, it's important for the DM to know where each character is located, so the players should decide the party's marching order. A character might occupy the front rank, a middle rank or the back. The characters in the front ranks search for traps and ambushes, the back ranks watch for pursuers, and those in the middle might be navigating, map making or foraging for food as they travel. So, travel paces. Okay, so distance per minute, 400 feet. Distance per hour, 4 miles. 4 miles, as a former reservist, 4 miles an hour over rough terrain is really pushing it. And you are capable of doing 30 miles in a day. I think the most I've ever tabbed in a day was about 35 miles. But you are pushing yourself and you are likely to incur exhaustion if you stick to that. Travelling over rough terrain with a Bergen, so these guys will be carrying their little adventurers packs, etc. At 4 miles an hour, even on reasonably flat terrain, that's a fair old push. You're looking at walking 15 minutes per mile. So that's a fair old pace that you're going to be keeping up. Average is, as it says here, normal 300 feet, which equates to about 3 miles an hour. So that's a fairly sedate pace. And then slow is a nice little tactical bimble out in the countryside, looking at the pretty stuff. So yeah, I think that these examples are fairly accurate, actually, to how many miles you could travel in a day. bearing in mind that, if you're an adventurer, the chances are that, you'll be up with a sparrow's fart, and you probably won't make camp until maybe an hour before sunset. So yeah, fairly accurate, I feel. Senses. Seeing is believing. So is hearing, smelling, echolocating, and tremor sensing. One of the most common phrases heard during a D&D session is make a perception check. It is, after all, a world full of unseen dangers, with monsters lurking in the shadows and traps potentially hidden behind every surface. It is also a world of important but often obscured detail, with secret knowledge to be learned, perhaps spotted while passing a torchlit mural or carved into the lid of a crumbling casket. But in this game, the fantastical kingdoms and creatures, there can be more to perceiving things via sight, sound, smell, touch, or if you're particularly bold or hungry, taste. There are in D&D other realms to the senses. So dark vision. So this is the most common thing that you'll see with your character creation. So people like elves, I think tieflings will have dark vision. So elves, dwarves, gnomes, tieflings and orcs. So they can see 60 feet in dim light, so in dim conditions they have better vision than a human does. Blind sight. Casting darkness would make no difference to a creature with blind sight, such as grey ooze, giant bat or purple worm. This is because they can perceive their surroundings without sight, perhaps through echolocation or an extremely keen sense of hearing or smell. So there you go. Tremor sense, similar to blind sight, only more specifically connected with vibrations. A monster with this sense, typically a burrowing beast like an ankeg, can locate the source point of the vibrations created by a creature or group of creatures, as long as it shares the same ground or substance as those creatures, which means it won't work against flying or incorporeal foes. So if you think about our nice communal garden mole, okay, they sense a lot of movement in their tunnels. When something burrows through and drops down into their tunnel, they sense a lot of their movement using their whiskers on the side of their snouts. So you could say that is tremor sense. True sight, the ultimate super sense, typically only possible for the deadliest of enemies, like dragons. This allows the creature to see normally in darkness, even magical, and into the ethereal plane, while also being able to see anything that's invisible. Detect and automatically see on saving throws against illusions, and even perceive the original form of a creature that has shapeshifted or been polymorphed. Higher level spellcasters can gain true sight through their 6th level spell, True Seeing. That's interesting and handy to know. Okay, dungeon adventures. Adventurers find themselves venturing beneath surface for many reasons. Rooting an evil cult from a sunken stronghold, exploring a cave system for treasure, or seeking the wisdom of a reclusive creature in its subterranean lair. As a dungeon master, you'll need to be clued up on the many threats and complications these environments have to offer. Dungeon delving is at the core of D&D, and unless they find themselves sealed underground unexpectedly, players should equip their characters with the resources required to survive. A reliable light source is any group's greatest asset underground, while inhabited dungeons may have their own light sources or natural caverns may have phosphorescent fungi. Darkness is the default condition below ground. It's important for players to manage their fuel supplies. These will likely be torches or lanterns and oil, though some characters may have access to the light cantrip. So my character managed to pick up the never-ending lantern which has been really handy on a couple of trips to the underworld. Food and water. Starvation and lack of water are substantial threats for characters venturing underground. Players should keep track of their own rations, and it's worth recording which supplies have been used at every long rest. Other considerations. Your players' characters could be adventuring underground for days or weeks. They'll need to come up with a system for getting proper rest, such as taking turns to keep watch or setting up alarms. As DM, think about what happens in the dungeon while they're resting. Spring a random encounter on them now and again, etc. We've just come across a sea temple which had like some merfolk in that were preparing a load of crab for a banquet after a sacrifice. So once we'd rescued the people that we had to rescue, we decided that we were going to and we killed a giant crab as well. That was hard. The health points on that were ridiculous, and the damage it could deal with its claws was even more ridiculous. But yeah, once we killed it, we decided that we were going to chop it up and carry it back to our ship, which we then sold at a wet market when we next made port. But also because all this food had been prepared for a banquet after the sacrifices, we rummaged that, and so we managed to feed the whole crew on the ship for a day without dipping into our rations reserve, which was quite handy. So yeah, things like that, always keep an eye out for. Bard. Do the Bard man. Character creation classes 5A Bard. With their love of song and stories, Bards are D&D's most entertaining class. I kind of feel, I mean, I'm old. I'm what they might call mature, which kind of really doesn't fit because I can be quite immature at times. But yeah, I'm certainly closer to retirement age than I am when I first started working. So I for those that remember back in the 80s, there was a group called the Baron Knights, and they would take songs of the time and change the lyrics so that they were like comical. I think one of the ones was David Bowie's Space Oddity, you know, where it's Major Tom. And they changed the character Major Tom in Space Oddity to a cat who had just been neutered. And obviously you can imagine how that went, you know, birth control to Ginger Tom. Yeah. Look it up on YouTube. And I kind of feel that bards, you know, if they had that sort of energy, it'd be a lot of their sort of like musical encounters would be quite funny. If music be the food of love, as a very famous bard once wrote, then in the realms of Faerun, it can also be the fuel that keeps the adventuring parties from the brink of defeat and power them towards even greater victories. So yeah, so bards can like provide inspiring music, etc., to help characters crack on and such. We've got a bard in our party. She's a bard dwarf, and she has bagpipes and a war gong of all things. Lore and Wanderlust, inspiring axe, and then college material. Right, while bards tend to have natural born talents, their skills must be developed and honed under proper tutelage. More often at a bardic college than under a single master. These august institutions are dotted around the realms and include the College of New Olam, located in the spectacular sea-facing cliffs of Mount Waterdeep, the College of the Herald in the great law house of Herald's Holdfast, and the esteemed College of Foclucan in Silvery Moon, whose focus is on teaching law, turning out some of Faerun's most knowledgeable and entertaining lawmasters. Then we're coming into some of their bard features, so cantrips and spells. Bards play songs so sweet as to coax the threads of the weave to dance. A bard's spells are part of their vast repertoire, and every bard learns 2 cantrips of their choice from the bard spell list. Cantrips are everyday spells which are fixed in a spellcaster's mind and don't need to be written down. They don't require a spell slot to cast and can be used as many times as a bard requires each day. Okay. So, charismatic spellcasters. Bards use the charisma stat for their spellcasting ability, as their magic comes from the heart and soul they pour into their performance. Additional spellcasting. Some bard spells require an attack roll to hit a creature. The caster makes an attack roll and adds their spell attack modifier, which equals their proficiency bonus +2 for every first level bard, plus their charisma modifier. Our pre-generated bard Ekrin has a charisma score of 18 and a modifier of 4+. Okay. For example, if Ekrin casts a spell that requires her to make a melee or ranged attack spell, she rolls a d20 and adds the +6 to determine if she hits the target. And then bardic inspiration. Bards can also inspire others through stirring words or music. To do so, they use a bonus action in their turn and choose one creature other than themselves within 60 feet of them. This creature must be able to hear them. The creature gains 1 bardic inspiration die, a d6. Once within the next 10 minutes, the creature can roll the d6 and add the number rolled to 1 ability check, attack roll, or saving throw. That's really interesting. The creature can wait until after it rolls the d20 before deciding to use the bardic inspiration. I'm going to share that with the bard in our group. That's handy. Right, bard features level 2. Those experienced performers improve their skills and speed in combat whilst also helping to heal their injured comrades. Jack of all trades. So animal handling, survival and deception. Acrobatics, perception. So this is Ekrin, and proficient in the skills that I've just mentioned. Song of Rest. Any character who doubts the healing power of music hasn't truly listened to a bard perform. As they rest following a battle, beginning at 2nd level, a bard can use soothing music or spoken words to help revitalise their wounded allies during a short rest. Any friendly creatures who choose to spend 1 or more hit dice to regain hit points at the end of the short rest, get a boost to their healing as long as they can hear the bard's performance during the short rest. Each of those creatures regains an extra 1d6 hit points. This benefit can also be enjoyed by the bard that is performing. Again, another handy thing that I will send to our bard. Goblins! Yeah, they're ugly buggers. Goblins are often an adventurer's first cunning foes. Shunted to the edge of society, these creatures aren't afraid to kill to survive. Goblin King and the Wargs. When Maglubiet conquered the goblins and drove them far from their Feywild home, they had to make new allies on the material plane. Their larger cousins, the hobgoblins, were drawn en masse to Maglubiet's service as loyal soldiers. Larger still were the bugbears, whose lingering fey gifts allowed them to skulk and melt into shadows despite their broad fur-covered frames. These goblinoids, allied with wargs, a cunning and wolf-like predator intelligent enough to learn to speak the goblin language with their newfound allies. Together, these goblinoids fight to carve out a place for themselves in the world, either as conquerors in the name of Maglubiet, or as survivors in a harsh world. So there you go. Nilbogs. The strangest phenomenon in any goblin horde is the appearance of a nilbog, goblin spelled backwards. Legend says that these mischievous spirits were created when Maglubiet I've probably butchering that, but you know, slaughtered the goblin pantheon, having been formed from the fragments of its trickster god. They wander the world until they find a goblin to possess, transforming their host into an obnoxiously disruptive force which shows no fear, hurling insults and cracking jokes while proving almost impossible to harm. Indeed, thanks to its unique, weirdly inverted magic, any blow landed on a nilbog will actually heal it. Okie dokie. Let's hope we don't come across one of those. Right, goblin battle tactics here. So they seem to so they are ambushers, skirmishers, and they like to hide. The kingdom of Delzoun, the famed North Kingdom, was the ancient seat of dwarven power. And this is for our lore section. Ask any shield dwarf in the northern reaches of Faerun about the proudest moment of their people's history, and they will most likely tell you about the old kingdom of Delzoun. So yeah, that's going to be what, Khazad-dûm? The lost capital. No dwarven city has ever been grander than Gauntlegrim, designed to harness the power of a primordial, a being of immense elemental energy. The Delzounian capital was built with doorways so huge they could accommodate dragons. Almost every surface was intricately carved with icons of dwarven gods such as Moradin, high god of the dwarves, Beranar, true silver, goddess of hearth and home, and Dumathoin, god of mining. Yet for all its grandeur, the location of Gauntlegrim was lost to the shield dwarfs for many centuries after Delzoun's fall, becoming little more than a fable. During this time, it was occupied by mind flayers, psionic tyrants from the far realm, for more than a millennium, before finally being rediscovered by dwarven hero Brunor Battlehammer. However, it was Gauntlegrim that Brunor met his end, defending the city from a pit fiend named Bealti Matouche, but not before he resealed the unleashed primordial, saving the city from annihilation. Despite this, rumours of Brunor's resurrection abound. Okay, Deadknock Mine. This is our next encounter, and this encounter is balanced for second level characters. Players can use the pre-generated character sheet or create their own. And they're saying that this one is 3 to 4 hours. So this is part 1. I'm looking forward to seeing the map for this. The dwarves of Deadknock Mine disappeared a year ago, lacking any explanation for their disappearance. Fandalin folk believe they abandoned their mine after exhausting its minerals. Earlier today, a messenger bird arrived in Fandalin bearing a note from the miners asking why their monthly supplies hadn't been delivered. Unknown to all, the dwarves unearthed a grotto under their mountain filled with Zardazil, or a rare metal with magical properties ideal for use in forging concealed weapons. The grotto existed in a parallel dimension called the Feywild, where time passes differently. For each day the dwarves spent mining the ore, a month passed on the surface. When the miners finally emerged from the grotto, a whole year had gone by in the Forgotten Realms. To compound the miners' problems, a pack of mischievous goblins followed the dwarves from the Feywild. Led by a crazed Nilbog, the goblins began preying on the miners besieged inside their own tool store. Galdibran's dwarves are too scared to carry out their duties, and the chief is desperate for help. So there you go. Right. So this is good. Beginning the encounter. The story begins in Fandalin. The adventurers are approached by Elmar Barthen, manager of Barthen's Provisions, the town's largest trading post. He has a mystery for them to solve. So, okay. So, dwarf halls. So, what have we got? Okay, yeah, that's a nice little mine adventure. I like that. So, D1 is dwarf halls. These ransacked rooms surround a central feasting hall lit by wall-mounted lanterns. A darkened kitchen lies to the west of the hall, and eastern chambers serve as dorms for the miners. Excuse me. There's a dwarf captive in there and 5 cackling goblins. Foundry. The dwarves smelt their ore into precious metal. Inside this foundry, giant stone smelters are brimming with molten metal, ready to pour into ingot moulds. The fiery smelters fill the room with bright light. 4 goblins are picking through the bodies of a pair of slain miners. So that was D1, that's the main hall. This is the smelting hall. And then we have D3 is the tool store. Galdibran, the mine boss, shelters inside the tool store alongside 12 of his fellow miners. The door is barred from the inside, but the adventurers can persuade the dwarves to open it by making a successful DC 10 charisma persuasion check. They open the door without question if Ogre from area D1 accompanies the adventurers. Galdibran is keen to reclaim the mine, but is fearful of the spellcasting Nilbog, who commands the goblins. Galdibran can reveal the following information. Right, magical grotto, messenger bird, and mine invaders. And then you've got the minecart track in D4. So this looks really cool adventure. So stat blocks for dwarf commoners and stat blocks for our goblins. And I feel, so the goblins from the Mines of Moria miniatures, for the Lord of the Rings Games Workshop miniatures, I think are perfect representations for these little ugly buggers. Absolutely. Let's have a look at the character sheet, shall we? So, Ekrin Tripletoll, Bard, Forest Gnome, Folk Hero, Armour class is 13, Initiative is +2, +3 for level 2, so Strength is -1, Dexterity is +2, Constitution is 0, Intelligence is 1, Wisdom is 1, Charisma is 4. Obviously, being a bard, that's important. Dark Vision, Gnome Coming, Natural Illusionist, Speak with Small Beasts, Bardic Inspiration, Song of Rest, Jack of all Trades, Spell Casting. And then the first level spells, Colour Spray, Dissonant Whispers, Healing Word, Long Strider, Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Those are the first level spells, and then Message and Vicious Mockery. Those are cantrips. So yeah, okay, it's quite a fun little character. Let's have a look at these dice. See how they roll. Oh, get another little bit of plastic that I can stick into my bits box for using as windows. That's nice. Right, these are red with glittery bits inside. Woo! Me, come on. And another tin. Come on down. Right, have a look. Here we go. So they look nice. I don't think they're as nice as some of the other clear dice we've had, the yellow and the orange ones. But they're okay. Have a look and see what I did 20 rolls like. 11, 1, 2, 15, 13, 18, 14, 3, 16, 12, 15, 3, 4, 10, 11. Yeah, so that's cool. That works. So yeah, what do you think of these? Let me know. I don't think these are as nice. I don't think the colour is as nice as the yellow and the orange ones that we've had. I'm assuming these are meant to be red because they're slightly darker than the orange ones. But yeah, they look alright. So yeah, that was our magazine for this week. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, take care. Bye bye.